I'm going to start flasking just our practice square of wax. I'm doing a mix here of what we call half and half. It's half plaster and half stone. I want this to be a fairly thick mix. The half plaster, half stone gives you a good combination of setting time and strength, and it works really well. Try to mix it without many bubbles. Bubbles are going to be a bad thing for you. Vibrate them out a little bit. I have the bottom of the flask here. With our flask, we want to separate it really well with Vaseline. This is one of the times that you get to put a really good thick layer of Vaseline, because we don't want the stone to stick to that flask. For this exercise, all you need to do is fill up the bottom of the flask completely with your stone mixture. You can just vibrate it in with my spatula. I don't have to use the vibrator. Make sure the top of it is pretty smooth. Going to clean my spatula and just make this as smooth as I can. I didn't mention you're going to do this in the lower half of your flask, because the upper half of your flask you're going to use for your denture. Now, for processing the wax square, I'm going to take a little bit of stone and I'm going to put it on the back or one side of the wax. This just makes it a little easier for you. The wax and the stone don't go together that well, and if you just put the wax into the stone, you're quite likely to end up with some bubbles. And I put the wax on top of our stone. That's it. Now I can let that stiffen a little bit. You want to make sure this is nice and smooth. You can see that that's pretty smooth as it is. You don't want any undercuts in that stone. Any undercuts will make it hard to get this apart. And you want to make sure that the brass of your flask is completely clean of stone. You can't have any stone on the brass of the flask. So this has to be completely clean. I can just take a little water, and with a wet finger I can just smooth everything together here. Much easier to do this with when the stone is soft than after it's hardened. And there we go. We can leave that for the stone to harden. And that's our first stage of this exercise, which is a simulation of your first stage of flasking. It's just a square of wax on top of the stone in your flask.